The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
So, Lewis, last Monday, we talked about this story, which many of our audience members emailed me about and said they found completely infuriating. And this is the story about Fox News using Republican talking points as a point of fact to talk about health care on hard news, supposed hard news. You remember the story?
Of course.
Well, I'm going to warn our audience, if you found that story infuriating, the one I'm about to tell you, which has nothing to do with Fox News, not on purpose anyway, it could pop up at any time, is probably going to make you much more upset than that story. Do you agree, Lewis?
Probably.
Remember when Judge Vaughn Walker found Proposition 8 in California, which resulted in preventing gay marriages, was unconstitutional? And people said, well, he's an activist judge because he's gay. You remember when we talked about that. Mm-hmm. And we made the argument that, okay, well, whether you're gay or straight, you presumably could have bias, could you not? It's a silly argument. Would it be unfair for Clarence Thomas to judge any court cases that have to do with race? Nobody's going to really make that argument. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, that was bogus. Our audience knew it. We knew it. Lewis knew it. Everybody here involved with the show certainly knew it. We may actually now have a real activist judge with conflicts of interest. And this is, of course, referring to the Virginia judge, Henry Hudson. It's really his name, who found just a few days ago that the recently passed health care law is unconstitutional. We talked about this ad nauseum, did we not, Lewis? Mm-hmm. The mandate that is there, legal, illegal. Massachusetts has had it for some time. Now, the mandate itself is, let me mention first of all, is the center of the unconstitutionality argument that Judge Henry Hudson made when he said the Obama health care law is unconstitutional in Virginia. Now, I'll tell you up front, all of the other judges in all of the other states that have been asked to take this up have said, no, I'm not going to get involved. Henry Hudson decided to get involved. And here's his quote. At its core, this dispute is not simply about regulating the business of insurance. It's about an individual's right to participate. Okay? His name again, Judge Henry Hudson, U.S. District Judge. He was appointed to the bench by President George W. Bush in 2002. He backed arguments by the state of Virginia that Congress has exceeded its authority by requiring that individuals buy health insurance or face a fine. So far, we understand what's going on, right, Lewis?
Right.
Any questions yet that I can answer for you?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Let's look at the judge. Who is this guy, right? I said, let's do some research and figure out, well, what's in his background? When we looked at Vaughn Walker's background, who was accused of being an activist judge for his ruling on Prop 8, his background, his professional background and his ties, his political ties and business ties, did not indicate any kind of conflicts of interest, didn't indicate any kind of bias. He's gay, though. So some people said, well, he couldn't possibly rule in an unbiased way. He is clearly an activist judge. So let's look at Henry Hudson's legal career. It has its roots in the Republican Party. He became assistant Commonwealth's attorney in Arlington County, Virginia in the 70s. He then served as assistant U.S. attorney for Eastern District of Virginia. He had a year in private practice, and he was elected Commonwealth's attorney for Arlington County as a Republican. Here's a quote to give you an idea of Henry Hudson's political philosophy. I live to put people in jail. I live to put people in jail. Henry Hudson. Okay, again, not an indicator by itself that he was in any way biased in this decision, but let's continue. In what Hudson described as a career-defining case, he prosecuted a man named David Vasquez. David Vasquez is a mentally retarded Arlington resident, and he was prosecuted for a 1984 rape and murder. Now, Hudson's prosecution was based on a confession given by Vasquez after repeated interrogations, despite the fact that DNA evidence found at the crime scene didn't match Vasquez. And again, despite the fact that, according to many, this is not a man who was fit to stand trial. He's mentally retarded. Okay? Hudson insists on prosecuting him. He gets a conviction, sends him to jail. 5 years later, turns out the guy's innocent. They found the right guy. Vasquez had already spent 5 years in jail. Again, by itself, not evidence of any wrongdoing in this case. Just giving you the background. Hudson also led a campaign to rid Arlington County of adult bookstores, massage parlors, and other venues linked to the sale of porn. As a result of his efforts, he was named by the Reagan administration to lead the Commission on Pornography. The commission controversially claimed that pornography caused sex crimes, despite the contention to the contrary of social scientists. As we know, not true at all. Okay, but remember, Lewis, Von Walker is gay. So he was an activist when he ruled on Proposition 8.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's continue on this. His leadership of the Marshal Service included early decisions in an attempt to arrest Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, the greatest disaster in the history of federal law enforcement, which led to a grand jury investigation, and misconduct charges against 12 federal agents. So that rounds out kind of Henry Hudson's background. Let's get into why I believe he is an activist judge who should have recused himself from this trial about the constitutionality of healthcare in Virginia. Are you ready for this, Lewis?
Let's hear it.
Okay. Henry Hudson is a shareholder of Campaign Solutions Incorporated. What is Campaign Solutions? It's a Republican consulting firm. In 2008, Hudson reported between $5,000 and $15,000 of income from the firm. In this December, just a few days ago, the company released a statement that, quote, Judge Hudson has owned stock in Campaign Solutions going back 13 years to the founding of the company, or well before he became a federal judge. He has fully disclosed his stock ownership. He is a passive investor only. He has never discussed the business with officials of the company. Other reports say his recent income is $15,000 to $50,000. Now, here's the kicker. What exactly, Lewis, did Campaign Solutions work on? What issue did they work on? I know you can just guess and you'll be right.
What issue regarding the story we're talking about?
Right.
Healthcare.
That's exactly right. Campaign Solutions worked against healthcare reform, the same healthcare reform that Judge Henry Hudson has now found, lo and behold, unconstitutional. John Boehner, Michelle Bachmann, John McCain, a bunch of GOP candidates who have placed this idea of unconstitutionality of healthcare reform at the center of their political platforms in many cases, were involved with this organization. Since 2003, Hudson has earned between $32,000 and $108,000 in dividends, another record indicates. And it continues. This alone, Lewis, should be enough for us to say he should not really have been ruling on this trial. Do you agree?
Agreed.
It goes on. Campaign Solutions was instrumental in launching Sarah Palin's Political Action Committee. And here's where it's just absolutely infuriating. Ken Cuccinelli, the Virginia Attorney General who filed the lawsuit that Hudson ruled in favor of regarding health care, is a former client of Campaign Solutions. He paid $9,000 in 2009 and 2010 for services rendered. Let me repeat that, okay? Because I know that people like to mince words. Some people say I'm not always clear. I'm going to say it as clearly as I can. The attorney who filed the lawsuit that Hudson ruled on paid a company the judge owns a stake in money for services rendered. You see where I'm going, Lewis?
I see it.
Is this
yes.
making sense to you?
It makes sense to me.
Let me say it another way. Judge Henry Hudson ruled that components of the recently passed healthcare reform bill are unconstitutional, which is the exact same thing that the consulting firm he rendered dividends from owns a stake in, was being paid to argue in the public. Mm-hmm. What on earth is going on here, ladies and gentlemen?
I mean, it's really no surprise.
Here's the thing, though. Here's why now progressives are at a disadvantage on this. Because you know what conservatives will say. They will say, hold on a second. When we said Von Walker was an activist judge in his ruling on Prop 8, he ruled against the will of the people. All of the liberals said, hold on a second. Activist judge, come on. He can separate what he's doing from what his personal life from how he rules. And now you guys are saying this, you don't like this ruling, and this now is an activist judge? Of course there is a difference, is there not?
Well, here there's money involved.
There's money involved. This guy, Henry Hudson, I can't say.
There's paper involved. There's signatures involved.
That's exactly right. He was on. We're going to hear that from conservatives.
Right.
So it's a disadvantage right away. And by the way, some people asking a good question in emails I got. How come it's okay for the government to force emergency rooms to treat you at taxpayer expense, but they can't force you to carry health insurance?
That's a good point.
I don't know. It's a question. Now, So again, I'm not calling for this judge to resign. There is evidence that he should, but I am not calling for that. What I am saying is that he should have recused himself from this specific trial. I assume there is going to be an appeal. This is far from over, and I assume it is going to be overturned before it gets to the top of the ladder. Do you agree?
Probably.
Now, the question here, and some are actually saying this decision could help the cause for national health care. But to believe that, for that to happen, Democrats really would have to start putting together actual PR campaigns, the way the Republicans are so effective at doing. We talk about how progressives and liberals and Democrats regularly lose the messaging and framing war, do we not?
Right.
The war of the words. We've talked about pro-life, pro-abortion, tax relief. We've gone over it time and time again.
Government plan.
The government plan, exactly, as Fox News. This is an opportunity, right, for those in favor of single payer to mount a PR campaign right now on this. This kind of problem where we have activist judges ruling the same way on trials that the political consulting firms they derive revenue from are trying to get the American people to side with in lawsuits would not be a problem if we had national health care. Just would not be an issue, plain and simple. And that is the campaign that progressives in favor of national health care need to mount. Let's get out there and build the message machine around. Let's take politically motivated lawsuits and activist judges like Henry Hudson out of the equation of people's life and death. It's time for national health care. Any chance Democrats, progressives will get together and build that campaign around this?
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
No, but national health care, a national plan, a public option is the only thing that's going to solve the financial problems with the healthcare system.
Well, you bring that up. We can get much of the funding from recovering about $400 billion that right now is being squandered on private insurance-generated administrative waste. Boom, $400 billion right there, Lewis. Mm-hmm. Come on, progressives, please. This is an opportunity. It's horrible corruption and conflict of interest at the highest level. Talking about people's life and death here. I get that, but it's an opportunity to build a real message machine around, hey, this problem goes away if we have national health care.
This should have been Obama's primary focus from the beginning. Okay, there was too much opposition. He passed something that was, okay, a step in the right direction, but nothing really great. But then it kind of just fell off the map.
Well, we know what happened.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on what happened with Barack Obama on this. Dr. Don McCann, a senior health policy fellow for Physicians for a National Health Program, says, nobody's going to argue that Medicare is unconstitutional. We should fix it so it works better and provide it to everyone. This is the expanding Medicare idea, which could also be part of this campaign that is just ripe for getting going.